So how do you find that fine line?
The right place, right time. I think I was like the only girl, the only soloist. I was the youngest, the only person from the UK. 80% of the bands and artists that I toured with are now no longer in the music industry. How many musicians get to say that now?
It's the butterfly effect.
100%. I'd get people in high school making fun of me.
You could be missing out on something like unbelievable.
I could do 10 hours saxophone practice a day. I would not get grade 8.
Music is now a full-time job. We're still totally independent and we love it like that.
The ability to motivate yourself to better yourself.
If you're growing up doing piano lessons, singing lessons, whatever it is, through your early years, that will obviously feel like a massive talent step.
The man with the most talent, Lionel Messi, who's like the best footballer ever, and then you've got Cristiano Ronaldo, who may not have the most talent, but he worked the hardest.
How do you guys use social media in your advantage?
Why would anyone want to look at me? But
I took a big social media break.
Why?
Don't get too obsessed with numbers or constantly being on social media. Like, never lose the artist.
we're all musicians, we're not social media influencers.
Yeah, we want to be as big as Foo Fighters, but we don't want to do social media. Imagine if the Beatles were starting out now, they wouldn't use social media.
Talking about social media, talking about a very, very hot topic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you guys use social media in your advantage?
We were just chatting about this on the way down.
Literally chat about it. Well, Pete hasn't been using social media for about 3 years.
Yeah, I took a big social media break.
Why?
So lockdown mainly was the one for me where I don't love the sort of personal aspect of social media. So for me, it's always been more of a work thing where I find myself, I'll post about music, I'll post about stuff I'm working on, but I don't often post, like, if I'm out with friends or whatever, or I kind of keep that, I like a bit of privacy in that sort of sense. But then, so I was saying, like, when we hit lockdown, and again, in the first couple of months I'm posting, and it's, I'm taking a video of my Logic project or whatever song I'm working on, and it's like, I just kind of felt like I was doing the same thing every day. Not adding, like, I was like, well, what value is it bringing to me? I don't really want to post. I don't get, like, excitement when I post. I'm doing it to keep the page alive, to keep the Instagram going. And then the other side of it in lockdown was, it felt like a lot of pressure to post when, again, there's nothing there. And not pressure from these guys, not pressure from, like, manager or anything like that. It was just the sort of pressure on yourself to do something because you're like, oh my God, I've not posted. And when you're so used to, like, when you're in a band and you are, like, active on social media.
You're on the road all the time.
You've got constant things to post because you're hanging out with your mates and you've got gigs on and you've got, photographers are sending you pictures that you can put up line. It's dead easy. As soon as you're sat in your room all day, every day, it becomes a bit like, oh God, what am I going to... And so I just thought, for peace of mind for myself and to see how I, if I feel any better, I was like, I'm just going to delete Instagram, not delete my accounts, but just delete the apps off my phone and just said, I'm going to park them for a while. And if I feel the urge at some point to re-download them and start posting again, I will. And I just didn't for ages. I just, like, there was not a part of me that wanted to do it. And then recently, having been out again, like, obviously it's been picking back up a bit. And then I thought, well, we've worked really hard on this album. There's a group of songs here that and I was like, I feel now like I'm at a point where now I want to post about these because I want to show people. I want to be like, hey, look at what we've been working on. So it felt like the right time for me to sort of pick it back up again. And I did, I didn't do like a big announcement, like, it wasn't like, I'm back on social media. Just quietly one day started posting again. And again, now it sort of feels like it's back to, I'm just posting about stuff that I'm excited about. So it feels like a natural thing. I'm not forcing a post or anything like that. But obviously you're front and center of this. So the responsibility falls a bit more on you on this one. But
I love social media, but I hate it. But because I feel, so during lockdown, so we would use like Instagram, Twitter and all that. I miss the early days where it was just YouTube and Twitter. Like, I would do like one YouTube video a week, Twitter, and I could songwrite. Whereas so now it's like Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Reels.
Threads.
Threads. Oh yeah, Threads, not Reels. And I'm trying to keep up all the time. Because it's like, if I'm not posting, then like other bands are going to be posting and the fan, you know what I mean? So, and then it kind of, my brain was wiped from songwriting. So now I'm not posting as much and I'm writing 10 times more now. Yeah. But, because during lockdown, everyone was like, oh, if your TikTok's great, like the industry is going to love it. And to be fair, we have got like loads of gigs from like big social media. So I started TikTok. It was kind of like, well, I'm just songwriting all day, it's COVID, I may as well just try a new app. And I'm kind of like a nerd with stats and all that, so I had no likes, no nothing. And now it's, I think, like nearly 5 million likes on TikTok, just because I was like, right, I've got to like beat this. And now I'm like, well, I'm out of lockdown. You know, I don't need to keep trying to be a social media influencer. But I mean, it's great. Like, I've met so many new fans from all these social media apps. You kind of update them as well, so they can get, you know, show little bits of new demos so they can hear it. You know, do live streams. Like, we'll, in our rehearsal studio, we'll do live streams of, you know, a headline set, or like, hey, here's like 2 new songs from the album, but we're going to play it tomorrow at 5 p.m. And the fans love it.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest advice to any musician is don't get too obsessed with numbers or constantly being on social media. Like, never lose the artist.
Yeah, like, don't neglect it either.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it is horrible, because it's, I don't think any of us three, if we weren't doing this, would be like active on socials at all.
If I wasn't a musician, I don't think I'd be on social media.
Do you know what? I think about this all the time, and part of me goes, I reckon I could be such a good social media influencer, but I just don't care.
Yeah.
But like, the other thing is, like, thinking about it, like, talking about it is like, for the fans, like, we are all fans of bands as well. So like, sometimes I look at it and I go, oh, like, the drummer from Bring Me the Horizon has posted like a drum cam, or he's posted something. I go, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I go, like, obviously not to the same scale at all, but I go, there are like a handful of people who go, oh my God, Bronnie's drummer Chris has posted that. That's so cool. And I think sometimes you have to kind of go, like, there's a reason we do it, and it's often not for ourselves. It's to like show off what we've been doing and like promote yourself in like a way that you would like to. And like, so I just completely forget about it like that sometimes. But then I kind of look back at it and I go, this is like, some of my favorite bands and artists post this kind of stuff, and I enjoy it as a fan. So like, there are fans that enjoy what we do. So like, you kind of have to treat it in the same way. And like, it's strange to do that, because you think like, why would anyone want to look at what I'm posting?
It's so judgmental.
We all want to see what you're posting.
What's it called? Where it's like, you like
self
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like imposter syndrome. I guess.
No,
Like,
yeah.
Because I look at, like I said, I look at the big bands that I love, and then I go, why would anyone want to look at me? But sometimes the case is that people do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Me and
it's-
Pete do.
That's
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. If nothing else, you've got two
Yeah, well,
views
that's
right
it.
here.
I'll keep posting you guys.
You have 2 fans here.
Yeah.
So how do you find that fine line? That should I post, should I not post? Once a day is okay, twice a day, 3 times a week, 4 times a day?
I don't think we found the line.
No,
there
I think
is-
it's just what you feel. Like, if you go, right, I've been on social media, like, you look at your screen time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write a song now.
It's just
More like
your
feeling.
comfort zone. Like,
Yeah.
I think our comfort zones are hilarious, because Pete's is so far away.
Yeah.
I'm sort of closer down the middle, and you're like the extreme end. So it's quite interesting to see, like, none of them, obviously Bron Socials do better because she posts more and she's the face of the project. Like, it is Bronnie. But like, if we were just the same, like, had the same number of social media people looking at what we do, I don't think there would be a wrong answer to that question. I think, like, post as much as you want to post, because at the end of the day, like, we're all musicians, we're not social media influencers, like Bron said. So
And it comes down, it's like what we're saying, if you've got something that you're like, you feel proud of, that you want to show people, post about that all day long. You know what I mean? If it's something you believe in and you really feel like it's something you want to get the message out about, doesn't even have to be music related. If it's something you feel passionately about, I think, yeah, post about it, go for it if you feel like you want to. And then I think it's just important to listen to your body, listen to your mind. Where, you know, if you're sat there going like, oh, I think I should post, but I don't really want to. Maybe don't. No. Maybe just like, yeah, allow yourself to just have that break. And then when you feel like you want to do something, when you feel like you want to engage, go for it and just do it when you're ready.
And like, celebrate the fans loving the music, because yesterday my headline tour went on sale and there's all these fans tagging me in their stories. Like, imagine if I wasn't replying to them or reposting them, being like, thanks for buying tickets. Sure. It's just like, if you got fans and all that, like,
yeah, I think
show the world that you have your fans.
For me, that as from a musician standpoint, that's the massive benefit of social media, is that you have that direct communication with people who are listening to your music. So it becomes like that dialogue. It's very close now in the world of, like, someone said it years ago, they were like, we don't really have traditional media on our like side right now, unless you're getting on TV, which is obviously really hard. Newspapers not doing that much for you now. We've got like, this is new media for us. This is social media is how we get across. And when you were doing TV and if you was radio or newspaper back in the day, whatever it was, magazines, you didn't have that one-to-one connect. Fans could read about you and read or listen to you talking about stuff, but you can actually have a dialogue now. You can be in a message with someone who's interested in your music and have that conversation. I think it's ace, like, people in like DMs, I'm sure you get it as well. It's like, oh, can you like do a little video of how to play this drum part?
Yeah,
I know you get it with lyrics and like, oh, what are the chords for this song and stuff. And being able to like engage, young musicians in particular, I think is amazing when they're coming and chatting to you as well. But just fans in general who are genuinely interested in the music, to be able to have that conversation, such a power of social media that I think is
and it's like social media as well is like a big thing. But like what we're doing right now in this room, for some people will be like the key turning point, and to be like, oh my god, that's exactly what I want to do. Like I loved that conversation, and like doing stuff like this is so good to be able to share. And you've got social media as a platform to share it, which then leads people into like longer form content, podcasts, and all that kind of stuff. It's just great, like the ability to post whatever you want to post, how often you want to post it. Like having the power in your own hands is so powerful now.
And I think as well, looking back to when I first started touring in 2016, like 80% of the bands and artists that I toured with are now no longer in the music industry. And it was because they worked like obviously like super hard at songwriting and touring, but they weren't on social media. And as soon as kind of fans forget you, they're going to find a new band on. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you have to put the effort in as well.
I think in a way, someone commenting on my post, on anybody's post online, it's like someone come and give you a hug, and you just literally reject it. You know what I mean? It might sound weird, but that's like an interaction, and a social media interaction. But that's like an interaction that needs to be, as you said, responded. You know?
And I've met some bands who are like, we want to be as big as Foo Fighters, but we don't want to do social media because they don't do that. And I'm like, but they had like MTV in the 90s.
Exactly,
they had their own promo. Like, you telling me that the Beatles, imagine if the Beatles were starting out now, they wouldn't use social media. It's like, they would.
And like these big bands, like they probably had the exact same thought about having to do like, oh, we've got to do this interview for like this radio station or whatever. They probably thought about it and felt about it in the same way that we sometimes think about social media. Like sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's a bit of a chore. So like, you can't box yourself in because the cool people didn't do it or the cool people don't do it. It's like,
I think it's I mean, I know it's the question, right? It's like there's a balance. What is the balance? It's like, I don't know. I think it depends massively on the individual. Exactly that. And I think sometimes we still get it wrong. I mean, you were chatting before. It's like sometimes you're posting so much on socials that you almost neglect the art, you neglect the music, you neglect the songwriting sometimes. It can happen. So I think it's important to remember if you're listening to this as a musician, music first, like 100% of the time, music first, and then you've got to do the social media stuff. You can't neglect either side of it. You're never gonna blow up as a musician by just doing social media, and you're never gonna blow up as a musician completely ignoring social media. And I don't want to say never. You might. Powers to you if you do, because like I'd love to do that. but
the chances are.
But you're definitely making it harder for yourself by not engaging at all in the social side of stuff. So I think you do. Maybe the way of looking at the balance is you treat it as if it's an extra hour or two of your work day that you've got to do as well. With how many musicians out there are working a day job as well as doing the music stuff as well. Maybe, it's a horrible thing to sort of put it that way, but you maybe think like, right, in my lunch break here, can I just throw up a couple of tweets or schedule a couple of posts or do a bit of something here where you go like, it's part of my work day and it's not something that I love doing, but it's a necessity for helping to grow my music and hopefully eventually leading to the point where it's not part of the job, it is the job, and that's all of a sudden.
Yeah, and it's showing your art. I think bands that kind of shit on social media, they're like, it's like, well, but I'm posting my music video. Like that's something that, we put a lot of effort in. That.
And like the harder you work, there will come a point where the social media will carry itself. Yeah. Like you can't tell me that, I'll use Bring Me the Horizon as another example. Like back in the day, if they were where we are now, this time, obviously they came before, but they would be posting the same as us, for example, the same as Bron. But like they don't need to do that now because the platform is so much bigger.
But they still do.
But they still do. But like they don't need to because they are that size. So like if you do the legwork and you go, oh, I don't want to do this forever, if you do the legwork and you do it right and you're still passionate about the music and you believe in it and you really work at the project, it will start to carry itself as well. So you don't have to worry about it forever.
Tell me about some of the challenges, some of the times that it was tough to deal with.
Lockdown is what's...
Lockdown.
I'm thinking now, like, lockdown.
Because with like musicians, especially touring musicians, we're all like adrenaline junkies.
Yes.
You know, that like before going on stage, you get all excited. Whereas in lockdown, you had none of that.
Yeah.
So I think people were literally like, get me out the house. I need to go on tour.
Yeah.
Because it's such a shift in it. It's not just like... It's bad. Like, it's bad. Not like when we were chatting about it recently, we've got great European tour. We're really looking forward to at the end of November into December. And then, but we were chatting about like coming back off that, you know, we're doing like 2-3 weeks out and it'll be amazing times hanging with us, we've got friends on the tour as well, the other bands we get on really well with as well. It's going to be like, I know it's going to be an amazing tour, which means that the coming back is going to be even harder. And particularly right around, you know, middle of December, we'll be getting back. So it's going to be dark, it's going to be cold, and it's going to be like, and so I'm already dreading the, like, that's when you get the real lulls for me. Unfortunately, we've booked another gig just afterwards, and then it's, you know, Christmas. So if that's something you're into, then.
But January.
January.
We always did my headline shows in January because we were like, no one will have, like, you know, winter depression. Whereas now it's in April and we're like, we're going to be so depressed.
There's something to be said about like how just the general person will have like a seasonal affective disorder. With musicians, if you're a touring musician, it's like a touring affective, it's like a seasonal touring affective. Because when you're not on it, it's so like your life just isn't what it can, you know, it can be. It completely changes. Yeah, exactly. So
you do get hooked on that.
And every night you've got the adrenaline, you're doing what you love on stage, and then you're meeting hundreds of people. And then to go from that to sitting in your room,
and then you're with your mates,
seeing two people, maybe,
like,
and it's like,
being with your mates constantly and like doing what you love as well. You're like, oh my god, I'm doing what I love. Like,
it keeps you young.
Keeps you young, keeps you fit. Like, it's nothing better. And like you get to, like, when you're touring as well. The other great thing is like we get to see some amazing places. Like we get to visit some really, really cool places, and like we'll have a day off, and it's like a day off. It's like. We talk about what's the best day of tour we've ever had. It wasn't a gig day; it was a day off. Which we're sat here talking about music is the best thing. The best tour that we've ever had was a day off in the middle of Poland, and it was like us and our friend Mason who was playing bass just at the time. It was just like, I don't know what it was. It was the fact that we were exhausted. We're in the middle of Poland. We'd never been to Poland before, and we just sat by this river. And we were just like having drinks, and it was like we were in Poland, and it was a bit. I don't know if you've ever been to Poland, but it was quite. Some of it's still quite like in the 90s. It's quite like a bit dark and a bit like worn down maybe. But this place we ended up in was just. It was beautiful, and it was like new. It was like a bit new town, and a bit like how you see like a new university, and like there's a nice bridge, and it's all painted, and it's all lovely. And then we just sat there, and we felt like we walked into like through a portal.
It was.
And then the sun came out, and there was jet skis on the river. And we were like, what's going on?
Literally, it was like the Wizard of Oz. We say, because it was all grey, and we were like, oh, this is our day off. It's going to be a bit rubbish. Walked under this bridge, and it was like glorious Technicolor. The grass was green.
The grass was green.
The sun was out.
It's a beautiful thing.
Chris learned how to do a backflip.
That is
it was
so
great.
strange. But like, and this is it. Like again, like you talk about like the question was, what's like the worst day? What's the worst part? What's the hardest part? Is because you see how happy we are talking about touring. Like that memory when you sat on your own and you're not with your mates and you're not with your band and you're not doing this, that, and the other. When you sat thinking about those times. The hardest part about it is knowing how good it can be, and like when it's not in that time. That's by far.
Sorry.
Oh no, go on.
I was going to say again, like thankfully for us, it's all combated by having each other. So if we've got 2 months off between two tours or whatever, it's not like, well, we won't see each other for 2 months. We'll be together. We're either doing social stuff or we'll be writing, or we'll be rehearsing for whatever we've got coming up. So there's never a sort of like, it's a complete lull where we're not doing anything. So I think if you were a soloist. That's where, again, I feel like that must be, you know, if you're a solo artist going off doing a 2-month tour, coming back and then you sat at home all of a sudden and you're trying to then motivate yourself to write, you're trying to motivate yourself to get something else going, that must be like, I can't even imagine how hard it would be. That's where it would really get to me, I think. But again, that's where lockdown was the problem, because we'd been doing good stuff on the build up into the lockdown. We'd just done literally before lockdown, we'd done a headline show, hadn't we? We'd been on tour with the Bottom Line, who on this Europe tour as well. And so it was great, and then just instantly hitting like, well, it's lockdown, all right. Well, we've done periods with no gigs, but then it was like, well, it's lockdown, but you can't even see each other.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it's like I didn't like. And when you spell it out, when, you know, if I'm telling myself it and you're looking back and you're telling other people and you go, no, there was a whole period where we weren't allowed to leave the house. We had to literally stay there. And you think, well, you must have wrote a load of music then. And it's like, well, no, for like months, I didn't want to, like, I just had no motivation at all. It was like a writer's block thing, I guess, but it was just full. I didn't want to do anything to do with music.
I was complete opposite of you. Like, I knew how, if you told me to play a bit of guitar, I could play a bit of guitar. And I was like, I need one thing that I could just do, just to learn. And Bron was like, why don't you learn how to like play guitar, like to play it properly? Like someone hands you a guitar, they said, they play a song and you can just play along to it. And like, I was like, okay, go on then. So I built a guitar and then I learned how to play it. And like, it was just like, that was the thing. I look back and I go, I did nothing. I didn't write. I didn't do anything like that. Like people say, I was like, I that was the one thing that got me. So like, it was different for everyone. Like you struggled at the start.
Yeah,
like,
and by the end of it, like how many songs have we got now that we come out with? Like these are all lockdown songs that we wrote. And again, it would either be a combination of one of us would write an instrumental or Bron would write a track on the acoustic, and then it would end up. But now it's like it's probably like what 20 songs at least that we've got floating around that were lockdown instrumentals that have now turned into full songs.
And when we found out it was like 3 weeks off, I was like, I'm gonna write so many songs, and then literally writer's block. I was like, well, this is depressing. And then just started songwriting those. But I was gonna say, when we're on tour, when it's like kind of like near the end, you kind of get used to it and you don't take it for granted, but like sometimes like when we got home, I was like, what I would give just to sit and watch someone sound check right now. You know what I mean?
Like just like the van journeys to places. Like you wake up, you get so used to getting in the van, you go, so what are we going to talk about for the next 4 hours today? Whereas like you get home and you go, I wish I could just talk about complete nonsense.
Random,
Tell me 5 things that you've realized that it's important to have. It could be traits, it could be anything during your musical journey to have as a musician to be able to make it.
I think one, and I think all of ours are very different, but I think having a person or a couple of people who you look up to, I think is massive. Like you producer wise, I know there's people that you like bang on about because like there's every reason to. Your inspirations are quite obvious in like the way that you like style yourself and the way you write your music and all this and the other, and then like same for me. Like I think having an inspiration, someone to look up to, someone to like be your goal, your idol, I suppose. It's like that's a really important thing in music.
Inspiration. Like I think it's so important that whenever I'm not feeling as inspired, I always watch band documentaries, like Foo Fighters Back and Forth documentary. It just makes you want to songwrite and get out on the road. Any interview with like Alanis Morissette instantly just gets me back in the zone. So I think having people to look up to and songwriters and inspirations, that's a big one. That's one.
Number 2, I think it's all down to like being someone who other people will get on with as well. I think if you're touring and you're meeting other artists, you've got to be personable. No one likes an ego. Everyone, like, you know, it's the most common thing when you're on tour. It's like
people talk as well.
If you're just if you're just personal, you get on with people, you're nice, you make yourself helpful if you can, if you're in a position to do so. I think that will go a long way in getting you places. Just being nice, being a nice person in the room and being friendly with everyone.
No ego, no like main character syndrome. I'm the queen here. It's like
always respect the sound guy.
Always respect the sound and don't drop the microphone like I did at the last gig. I felt so bad.
Threw it on the floor.
Right,
so that's one inspiration to good etiquette, I guess.
Etiquette,
I think surround yourself with good people as well.
Good team around you.
Good team. Have a good team.
Absolutely.
Dream team.
Number 4. As far as musicians say, practice. Just practice. Like sometimes it's the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's the best thing in the world.
I guess you put it down to like commitment as the heading.
You can only get better. Like if you practice, you can't get worse.
That's it. Like sometimes we will not like rehearse a gig because we're just like, do we need to? And like sometimes we definitely don't need to because we've played these songs like hundreds of times, and we play all the time, and we're really locked in. We're quite tight as a band, I'd like to think, and people tend to say we are. So like, but yeah,
I can totally see that, how you bounce off each other's energy. It's totally from somebody who's looking at you from outside.
We spent so much time together, like be it on tour, be it in rehearsals, be it in, and so like Chris is saying, it's like sometimes we've just come off a week and a half's worth of tour, and if we had another gig tomorrow, and if we were doing the same set, we'd probably be a bit slack on rehearsing. We maybe run it once, make sure everything's working, and nothing's broken since the end of the tour or whatever. But definitely, if you're starting out or you're playing with musicians who are new to you, then practice hard. Like you got to be on it. Yeah. So that was 4.
That was 4. 5. Have fun.
Have fun.
Have fun all the way.
That's nice.
Enjoy the journey, right?
But enjoy it.
Yeah,
totally.
Ooh, and always be ready.
Oh, I thought you were going to say always be realistic
Always
with your schedule.
Always be realistic with your schedule.
Realistic with your schedule.
Yeah, because we had one thing where it was Europe. This is 2019. This manager rings up my manager and was like, right, can you be in the Netherlands tomorrow for a tour? Pete was in Weatherspoons.
Sat in a bit of garden.
And I'm like, Pete, can you get in the car right now? Just pack anything. We're going to go to Europe for like three weeks. And like, if we sort of said no.
Yeah.
Imagine if we'd said no.
We're in a position of like, we're fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a case of run back from the pub, chuck 3 weeks worth of clothes in a bag, and then you were outside with the van in like an hour's time.
Yeah, and I think with musicians as well, like, you can't really plan anything. Like, the amount of times it's someone's birthday party, we're like 5. But like, if like there's like a wedding or like your mate's birthday or something, you can say, I'll go if I'm free, you have to be ready to.
I think that's one thing you got to have is you've got to be willing to sacrifice.
It's like commitment to the cause is
like I didn't do holidays for about 4 years because it's like it's in the middle of the summer. It's like you got festivals, you got this, you got that. It's like I couldn't commit to anything. Didn't want to put like a deposit down on a holiday and then have to not go or anything. So I just didn't go away for years. The amount of like partners and friends' birthdays that I missed, and you're like, oh, I'm really sorry, maybe next year. But
you're out there like living your best life.
But it is just the reality. If you're going to get into live music, if you're going to get into touring particularly,
be serious about it.
You've just got to be willing to be like, I'm going to have to make some sacrifices here, and it's hopefully it all comes around. But it's like you're saying, you live in your best, you're having fun doing it. So it's like you're making the sacrifice in the sense that you're going to be letting someone else down. And maybe it is something that you'd want to do as well. If it's a holiday or whatever, that's for you as well.
And you go, what would your 15-year-old self say? Imagine if it was like, we're not doing that tour because I want to go on holiday.
You're in a
You'd be like,
to turn something down that's like, but
Yeah,
what you get out of it is so
well, it's like with Don Broco. So I was in Florida end of August.
You were on holiday.
You went on holiday. I was like, yeah, Disneyland. And my agent, like, so I landed, had 2 days, jet lag's gone. My agent was like, can you fly back now because you're going to support Don Broco in Liverpool? I was like, yeah.
That's one where the rehearsing thing comes into it again. Like, me and Pete ran the set once without Bron, and we were like, I guess that works. Like, it's fine. Bron turns up, jet lagged, pick her up, straight to rehearsal, run it once. She's like exhausted, but like on the day of the gig, and it's like, we'll have to just go, like all go. And like being prepared was so important for that because like we could have turned up and not rehearsed, and I know that we'd have killed it.
Yeah,
which is so nice. But like obviously,
but that comes from the prior preparation.
Well, that's because we rehearsed so much.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting. So you've been in a pub. You've been on holiday, right? But in the middle of the holiday, in the middle of being a pub, you have to change plans, right? Do you consider that even as a sacrifice? Because obviously as a so-called normal life, you go to a job, 9 to 5, that was my holiday time, that was my me time.
No.
Not really. That's what's
my only thing was the flight cost. I was like, I sell a lot of t-shirts tonight. But it's all so worth it.
It's one of them. I think there are there might be some situations where you consider it a sacrifice, like if you're missing someone's wedding or whatever, like you were using that example before, or you're missing a partner's birthday or something. That might be a bit like, ooh. But I think it's one of them. Like you'll know, and your heart's kind of going back to it. If you're really into this, you really want to do this. You'll be able to make that
really
call and go it's like, all right, so I'm out with my friends or whatever, but I'm then going to go do 2-3 weeks around Europe. Like the trade off for me is like it's. Yeah, it's dead easy for that. But I think there are some times where you might find it tough, but I think generally 9 out of 10, if you're really keen on this, it's not a sacrifice. It's something that you're just willing to do. It's something that you want to do.
It comes with the lifestyle.
My mates often say they're like, "Oh, you do the coolest job. Like, you got the coolest job. It's so fun." And I'm like, "Yeah, sometimes it's a bit of a slog." And like, what am I talking about? Like, it's so cool. And like my friend Jacob always says to me, he was like, and he's a laser physician, super smart guy, and he loves his job. And we always have the same thing. We just say to each other, it's like, do a job you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. And like, it doesn't feel like work at all, ever. Like, even if you like, there's meetings or you've got to drive to, you've got to do a 12-hour drive from Budapest to Cologne. You're like, oh god, a 12-hour drive. But like, there's a gig either side of it, and you go, why am I moaning? Like, there's no complaint.
You're in the van with your pals.
Yeah,
exactly.
Road trip.
You make it work.
For people who are watching, who want to release a song, or who have released a song and they want to just improve their skills in releasing a song, what do?
We kind of do it different to every band ever, it seems, because like a lot of bands will, if they're releasing an album, say, they'll have like the whole album mixed and mastered, sent off to loads of industry people and all that. Whereas we announced our album before it was even finished.
Yeah.
And like we're releasing, like it's, the album's still not fully mixed and mastered yet, but we're still releasing like, the odd single, just when the single's ready, really. Because there's loads of musicians that we've met who just say they're going to release a 5-track EP. They're like, no, I've got all the songs, they're all recorded, I'm just going to wait for it all to be mixed and mastered, and then in like 9 months time I'll release the first single, and then like 2 months after that, and I'm like, but that's a year out now. Like, release a song now.
I think
if you found your sound. And
I think that's the key, is like just release. It's like, I think in terms of like strategy, there are better and worse times to release music. It's like we found like summer, for example. If you can get early summer, that can be a good slot, but we know late summer can be a bit of a struggle. Sometimes people being on holidays and that.
December's a no-go.
December's tough. And then other than that, it's like, obviously if you're releasing onto streaming services, you've got to try and pitch for playlists and that, which is a whole other topic of like how we feel about that. But you've got to sort of play the game and try and get it right. But then other than that, it's just being willing to, going back to the social media thing, promote it. You've just got to be willing to, like, if it's a song you feel passionate about, you love it, share it. Don't be afraid to sort of like, I think people feel the guilt and and imposter syndrome as well. You don't want to bore people on your social media. But people can unfollow you if you're really winding them up, they'll unfollow you. So just post about it, because it's something you love. You're just trying to get it out there.
If you're new to it, if like it's your first release and you're nervous about it, just release it. Like, don't even think about it. Just get it out there. Just let people hear it. Because if people like it, they'll like it. If they don't, like Pete said, they'll just turn it off. They'll unfollow you. They won't be interested. Like, if it's what you want to do it. Like, don't even hesitate. Just dive in. Feet first.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the right way of doing it. It's just, in terms of like strategy for releases, I think it's, there should be promotion before it's going out as well, which is really your bag. You're obviously, like we said before, you're like you're the social media leader of this group. But it's what you've got to obviously promote it while it's sort of on pre-release or pre-sale. If you're doing it that way, if you're just doing it as a drop, then make sure you got everything ready to go as it's coming out and get a bit of hype going. But ultimately, everyone's releasing for a different reason, aren't they? Some people want to release a song with the view of building a career, and some people might just want to release a song because they like the song and they just want to chuck it out there for their own, their own sake. In which case, you probably have to worry a bit less about promotion if it's not something that you're bothered in. But if you're trying to make a career out of it, or something you really want to push out there, then I think having everything ready to go, not releasing the song and then scrambling to put stuff together, promotional material is always a good way to go about it. And other than that, it's just making sure everything's scheduled properly, so you know when it's all coming out, when it's actually going to be live and stuff, and making sure you got the best possible sounding track to go out there.
That sounds good. If there was one thing that you could change about music industry, what would that be?
Promoters.
Promoters!
Big music, I call it. Just
Gatekeepers!
gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Gatekeeping. Like, obviously there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not going to badmouth anyone, but there is a lot of stuff going on with Live Nation in America at the moment. And it's just interesting to see other musicians' perspectives on it. I know that we're in a more fortunate position where we are now working with these big national promoters, and it's great because the platform they can put you on is unbelievable. But if you can't work with them, to get to that platform is very, very difficult. And like, we've been fortunate enough to get to that platform now, which is so good. And like, we're very thankful to be working with these people, because you get great gigs. You get the Wasted tour we've just been on, like, was working with the same people we're doing our headline tour with. So then like, you build relationships with these people, and it's great. And they can do a lot for you. But unless you're in it, it's very difficult to get in it and get those big breaks that people say, oh yeah, you need a big break, you need to support a big band or something like that. And it's like, it's very difficult to do, because it's like, there are key holders in
gatekeepers
music,
taking your money.
Yeah.
So I won't say who, but we toured with a band, and they said, oh yeah, we went with this certain promoter, and we worked out all the tickets, we would have made 23 grand, but
this was for like one show.
This is for one show, which is like, they're like a really big band, and they got 3 grand out of the 23 because the promoter was like, yeah, well, you know, you got to be on my side. If you don't give me this gig, I won't get you on this festival. So like, they ended up getting on a festival. I think it was like Reading and Bloodstock.
It was a good festival. Yeah.
But you go, like, the fans, like, have no idea, and everyone thinks that, you know, like, if a band's ticket prices are expensive, it's like, they're not getting most of that.
Yeah. It's tough.
So I do feel sorry for so many bands, because that's where you make your money, really, having people come see you live.
A lot now where it's becoming a bit more transparent to the average music fan, how little money musicians make from playing live. Like, it's really, really tough now. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing people are aware. It's a massive problem when you look at it and you go like, well, because everyone knows bands don't make money from the streaming royalties anymore. It was always like 5 years ago, it's like, well, yeah, okay, you don't make much money off streaming, but you can always go out and gig, and that's where the money is. And now you're looking around going like, where's that money gone as well?
But like, now bands are just a shop. You're just a shop. Buy my t-shirt. Because if you buy my t-shirt, I can continue to do this. If you don't buy my t-shirt, I cannot do this anymore.
It's really bad. It's really bad. It's got to a point where it's and it's a very calculated thing, in my opinion, where the industry's moved to the point where it's so hard for the actual people who are making the music and going out and performing the music are getting paid so much less than the people around it, which is, you know, none of us want to do this necessarily. It's like, it's not fine. You know, I don't want to I'm not doing this so I can become a millionaire. I'm not doing this so I can have a private jet. I do this because I love playing music and that. But you've got to have it. It's got to be feasible. It's got to be, you know, if you're going out and you're doing the work, you should be receiving a fair compensation. Not so I can go and have a private jet or a private island or whatever, so that I can afford groceries when I come home, so that I can come over and pay a bit of rent or whatever. And it's like, it's not, you know, we're not asking for millions here, but the way it's set up at the minute, like, you can do so much work for so little back, and it's sort of just looked at as like, well, it's the way it is. Yeah. And breaking through that is like, it's impossible. I don't know where the road is for that, but so it feels to me that like revenue in the last 20 years or so, or 15 years, revenue in terms of music sales has been pulled right back away from the artist by streaming and that. And now in the last 5 years, revenue from live music has just been like, so you're left now with like you're saying, merch sales is pretty much, that's the only way you can make a good revenue. And then even then you look in America in particular, and it happens here as well, but venues taking revenue cuts on merch as well.
Yeah.
So you're like, how
is taking everything away? And like, there will come a point, it will go one or two ways where no one can do it anymore, or there's a massive revolution and everyone says, sub big music, we're going to do it all ourselves. And that seems to be the way that it's going now. We know bands who have said to us, big bands who have said, just get a bank loan, because it's cheaper, like interest wise, it's cheaper if you have to pay it back. Put on your own gigs because you can pay the bank loan back quicker, and then you've got more money, you've got like more freedom, you've got all control. These kind of things in your wheelhouse. The only thing you haven't got is connections, and in music, connections is a big thing, but there's something to be said for going out and going and meeting people. You're brilliant at it. Like, you'll go to social events and you'll go to industry events and stuff, and you'll go and talk to people, introduce yourself, learn a bit about what people have to say, and do the professional thing as well. As like, the music is great and it's fun, and we've had a laugh talking about some of the great times, but like, the legwork you have to do is really important as well. And like, you're always you roll your eyes at it all constantly because it is like, it's that thing of like, that this is the 5% of like, oh god, the worst thing that I have to do about my job is go and speak to people about my job, and like, but you come away from it all the time learning something, and like, and like there's always something to benefit from doing it, but it's having to do it in the first place.
I was gonna ask actually, do you think that's the solution?
Solution is to just say we don't need them. If everyone turned around and said we're not gonna go with a big label, we're not gonna go with a big so and so, whatever that it may be. I'm not gonna point fingers at anyone in specific, but like it's to just turn around and say, yeah, we'll just do it without them. Because if everyone does it without them, what do? They've got nothing. We've got everything. Yeah. So and at the end of the day, it's for the fans. If the fans are the ones who are handing over their hard-earned money, they deserve to have a show. We can do that. We can put on a show without having to hand all of the money away, so that we can work hard and earn some money to keep doing it. Like the more money in our pockets from fans, the more we can do for the fans. Like it's such a give and take and constant back and forth. It doesn't get like pissed up the wall. Like we use the money. Yeah. Like so a few years ago, we couldn't get on any European tours because we'd never toured there before, and we were saying to promoters like, let us support this band because we know we have fans who will come to the show from social media, like here's all the messages, and they were like, nope. So we were like, okay, we're gonna get all the money that we've made from the last tour and put on free acoustic hangouts all over Europe, spent thousands on it, met all these fans, people we knew were there, gave them like, you know, a free little acoustic hangout sesh, you know, meet and greets and all that. We'd like hang out with all of them. And then because we had that established, you know, European fan base, we were like, right, instead of supporting people, we can now do our own headline shows. Yeah. So we sold out Amsterdam twice. Yeah. And then from that, promoters are like, oh, you do have fans? Okay, we'll get you on that. So we kind of use it it all goes back into the fans anyway. Yeah, literally. And it's what No, I was going to say, like on the do-it-yourself thing is great, but the problem we've got at the minute is that, again, because of the way it's set up with people like gatekeeping a bit, but it's like, I know venues in Liverpool, for example, where it's like, can't get a book in there because the promoter wants to do it themselves, and so it's like, unless you go with them, and therefore you end up with their fees, you can't actually get in and do it yourself. And that's small venues. When you get bigger and bigger, it just gets worse. Like we'll be the front line of, I'm not saying us, but like our generation will be the front line of musicians to break that mold. I hope so. And then as soon as the promoters at the venues go, no one's booking these venues, and the venues start shutting down, and there'll be one venue that turns around and say, it's independent. Just bring bands, come in, and they will make the most money, and they will start setting the tone for every other venue, for every other like music shop, for every other like whatever it is. Like it will start becoming more independent, and I think that's really important because then also like your fate's in your own hands, and the better bands, the harder working musicians will start reaping the rewards, and those people who have had it handed to them on a silver platter and who don't live and breathe it the same as the hard-working ones won't be the ones who are in the charts, won't be the ones who are selling the most tickets, because it will really start to show who wants it more and who deserves it more because they want it more, I think. We hope so that one day you will be able to get there. Yeah, absolutely. You brought up the subject of networking. So how do you guys network? Yeah, it's such like a hot, I hate the word networking, because as soon as I think of the word networking, I'm like, okay, it's people just being fake to people to get something out of them. We're just not like that. Like no, so our version of networking is very much being matey with other bands on tour, that sort of thing. You know, if you end up at an event or something, chatting to people who are obviously in a similar world to you, that easy. When you've got music as a common ground, when you're in a room with a bunch of musicians, that easy to have a chat in it. Like most of the time, again, egos aside, if everyone in there's you're a decent person, then it's not hard to have a good chat with them. But I think our networking is pretty much just touring and hoping to meet up with cool people. And when it's not touring, like you're good at chatting to people, like you're good at having conversations with people, and we're quite fortunate in that your manager is so good at talking to anyone about anything. So that's a really good one as well. It's like surrounding yourself with the right people who have the same outlook on everything that you're doing musically is really good, because as a brand, it's not like networking isn't always touring, it's not always meeting people. It's again going back to social media, like the social network is really important for you. Like the way that you guys connected to do this right now. That's networking. It's online.
Yeah.
Like it's
responding to a message can that?
Forget that.
And the amount of times, we did a festival this weekend. We were in Bristol doing it, and the amount of people walking around Bronze, like, oh hey, it's another band. And it's like, oh, how do you know them? And it's like, oh, we're chatting on Instagram.
Yeah,
it's that sort of thing happens very naturally all the time.
But I think our version of networking, we just want to be friends with people. It's not to get anything out of anyone. Whereas I think a lot of people are so focused on like, right, I want to tour with them, so I'm literally going to be fake and get on their tour. It's like, no, just be mates.
Yeah, that's it. And like, you can get great things out of it for a personal reason, and you can help other people as well. And that's the real gem, is that when you know you've helped someone else. Like a mate of ours, I got a job as a drummer the other week, and he was like so thankful for it, because like, and it's that thing about like, he really networked us. Like his band were on a bill with us.
Cheers, dude.
Like it was really nice to see like him like doing well, and he just loves music so much. And like, when you network and you meet good people, you want to do good things for good people, and like that's rubbed off on us as the beneficiaries of that as well. So that is great.
Of course. There you go.
Thank you.
No, I totally agree. But at the same time, as you guys brought it up, I think it's important to have that kind of mindset at the beginning, that what kind of value I can bring to the table before asking for anything, right?
Yeah.